Hey there everybody, this is Andre the Game Idea Guy, and I got two things to talk about today. We're going to be talking about how Nintendo is anti-consumer, and also going to be talking about Foamstars briefly. So, firstly, Nintendo is anti-consumer. Somebody hears me say that and probably thinks that I'm saying it unironically, but in all honesty, that statement is true. But it's not true for the reason that a lot of people think it's true. Because a lot of people think saying that Nintendo is anti-consumer means that Nintendo hates having customers, which is not the case. But that's because people use consumer and customer interchangeably when they aren't always interchangeable. So you can make the statement to say that a customer can always be a consumer, but a consumer doesn't always have to be a customer. And I'll explain. Consumers are people who have access to things and they consume that thing. They utilize that thing. It doesn't necessarily mean that they paid for it. Whereas a customer is someone who purchased, paid for the thing that they got through a legal channel, such as a store that is licensed to have it or such. They paid for it and then received it. They may or may not use that thing. That's why a customer can be a consumer, but a consumer doesn't always end up being a customer. See, customers can be consumers, consumers can be customers, but they are not always interchangeable with each other. Because a consumer can have access to something without paying for it and receiving it illegally, whereas a customer is someone who obtained it legally. That is the major difference there. A lot of people don't understand that. But that is the major thing that makes it different. A consumer doesn't necessarily have to be a customer. So, yeah, Nintendo is anti-consumer, but they are pro-customer. That's why when I hear people say stuff like, well, exclusive games shouldn't matter, then you don't want the company to have a customer base then. Because if the company doesn't have a customer base, there's nothing for them to put out for people to buy. That's why I'm like seeing things change from Microsoft and Sony, where they're making their used to be exclusives non-exclusive. It's going to hurt them in the long run. Yeah, it's going to be better for everybody else, but in the long run, unless they are intentionally planning to move to be third party, which it looks like Microsoft is, it's going to cause problems in the long run. Because the less of your content that stays on your platform, the more people are going to go to the other platform where your stuff is available to get it. Just how it is. That's why Nintendo is in no rush to put a bunch of stuff on PC, despite what Hip Hop Grifter says. Because they don't need to. They could, but they don't need to. Especially when a lot of the people that mess around with Nintendo stuff on PC are consumers of their products, but not customers of their products. So, well, yeah, and the only way I see Nintendo really jumping into PC gaming, as I've said before, they're either going to work out a deal with Valve and put their stuff on Steam, or they are going to have their own client that they put on the PC for you to get their stuff. More than likely, if they did that, then that client would also link into your Nintendo Switch Online account, which would allow you to be able to play like all of the classic games and stuff through your account on PC. Those are the only ways I see that working. At least currently. Unless there is a drastic change up in things. Now, I do think that Nintendo should probably put out some more stuff on mobile, because they could make more mobile offerings, but we really haven't seen them do much as of yet. I mean, Mario Kart World Tour took off on its own, but that's a whole separate tangent, and I'm not trying to be sticking on that when I'm trying to stick to the subject. So, to say Nintendo is anti-consumer is a correct statement, but to say they are anti-consumer because they do something you don't like isn't the proper way to use it. Unless you are one of those consumers and they did something that inhibits your ability to consume without paying them, then it would technically be right, but you'd still be in the wrong at that point, so it wouldn't really make a difference. So when I say it, I don't say it in trying to be funny, haha. I say it seriously. But that also means the same thing for every other company out there, whether they are first party or third party. They are trying to sell you on their products that they own. And people forget that third parties do have exclusivity to the things that they own. They are the ones that can proprietarily put their stuff out. It doesn't matter what platform they put it on. They are the owners of what they do, as long as they are also the publishers. I believe I made this point before, but I don't want to see a Konami-made Mega Man game. I truly don't. But I also don't want to see a Capcom-made Contra game. For the same token. Yeah, they could probably both make adequate games featuring that switchover. But for some reason, my gut tells me it wouldn't work out very well. So that's something to be considerate of. Or let's say I wouldn't want Naughty Dog to go ahead and make a Metroid game, because I have a feeling that game would bomb so horribly. But for that same token, I don't really want to see Retro going ahead and working on The Last of Us. Something just don't feel right with that. So that is something to think about and to consider. Or I should say Nintendo, because Nintendo's the publishers. I don't want to see Nintendo commission a commission a Last of Us game to be made. So, yes, Nintendo is anti-consumer. So is the rest of the industry, because they want your money. Unless something is intentionally put out for free, they want your money. They want your money, and they want to get it as many ways as they possibly can. Speaking of which, let's move on over to Foamstars. Now, I personally wanted this game to do well. Jokes aside, comparing it to Splatoon, I wanted this game to do well. But unfortunately, it's not looking like it's going to. And that is based upon the premise that, one, Square Enix went ahead and took the deal to put Foamstars on PlayStation Plus day one. And two, they're charging for skins that are about as much as the cost of the game. That's some wild shit to me. You mean to tell me the skins in your game cost more than the DLC for any Splatoon game? Say that again. Your skins, your interchangeable skins, cost more than the DLC for either Splatoon 2 or 3. And cost the same price as the base game. Who came up with this idea? Square Enix, I know you guys are hemorrhaging for money. Maybe, just maybe, you shouldn't go ahead and decide to, put in an anti-customer practice of making a game available that people can purchase and then charging as much for the skins in the game as the game itself. That's one of the reasons I have stayed away from the latest Dead or Alive, is because I don't want to pay damn near twice the cost of the game to get a bunch of skins for the characters. This is not a good idea. And when it ultimately fails and it doesn't do well, it doesn't bring in money, you'll go ahead and say, well, we put out a product like Splatoon and it didn't do well. Guess why it didn't do well? Because you fucked over your customer base at the end of the day, and they're not going to pay for it. The only way people are majority of the way going to be playing this game is going to be through PS Plus. That's it. That's how the majority of people are going to play this, and if they play it and enjoy it, because unfortunately it didn't even rate that well in Metacritic, either with the critics. Currently there's only 10 reviews out. That's probably going to change. And even with the gamers themselves, I think with gamers it's a 6.5, and with critics it's a 59. 59. I was expecting this game to at least get 75 for the critics. The only way that would happen now is if a bunch of outlets give it perfect scores, and the way things are looking right now, they could not do that without shooting themselves in the foot. They couldn't do that without shooting themselves in the foot. So for all of the yapping and discourse online, everybody, well, this is going to crush Splatoon. Like, I knew from jump it wasn't going to crush Splatoon. Anytime somebody says this game is this game killer, it never works out. Like, it never works out. It's not a smart move, for one. Two, you had influencers out overhyping this game. Problem with that is that when it comes out and it's not up to the expectations that are set by the influencers, the people that are followed by millions of other people, to talk to people about something, if you can't give your honest opinion on something, or you're not allowed to give your honest opinion on something, you're doing a disservice to, one, the people who listen to you, two, the product that you're talking about, and three, yourself, because you now have started to ruin and erode the trust that people have in you. That's one of the reasons I'm like, I'm very particular about following bigger people when it comes to certain things. Not that they shouldn't be followed, not that they don't deserve the opportunity to say, hey, yeah, this is great, or nah, this is a mediocre product. The problem is a lot of people are bought and sold. It's the same reason I don't really trust any of the gaming magazines currently, because they're bought and sold through advertising. So unless I know for a fact that somebody sat down and they really thoroughly went through something and played it in every aspect, every angle that they could, I'm not going to trust their opinion. I'm not going to trust their opinion. Now, if somebody's giving me a cursory glance at something like, yo, this is a preview, it may look better than this, we don't know for sure, I could trust that more. But in the full-on review, if you are overhyping the shit out of anything, I don't trust it. Unless I know for a fact that you've played that game in and out, back and forth. Or you've used that product in and out, back and forth. If you have not done that, I don't trust it. And that's because I also do game testing and app testing. So I don't trust everybody else's opinions like that, because I do that type of stuff. So unless you can give me valuable feedback about the thing you're talking about, I'm not interested. And from the looks of it, how people have described Foamstars, it is what I basically thought it was, which is Splatoon mixed with Overwatch. But parts of it just aren't meshing well for some reason for a lot of people. And there are plenty of people out there going to bat for this game right now, like, no, it's great, it's actually awesome. But you have to think about outside of yourself. You may like the game, you may find all of the good things about the game. That doesn't mean everyone else is going to. Just like I will say it time and time again, I know for a fact that Quest 64 is a horrible game based around how it was made. There are some really good ideas in the game, but the overall package just doesn't come together well. And I still like that game. I am also not the biggest proponent of going ahead and saying, yo, you need to play Quest 64 because it was amazing. No, I'm not going to do that. Because I, being someone who's played it thoroughly, I've seen the problems with the game. I know what issues the game has. I still like it in spite of those issues. But I'm always going to tell people, yo, this may not be the RPG for you. Yeah, it has a nice mechanic where you can actually avoid the attacks if you can get out of a certain range. But if you don't know how to adjust to changing camera angles, or you don't like the idea of running up on your enemy and whacking the hell out of them and then trying to run away, it's probably not going to work out for you. That, along with some of the barriers that are in the game, don't look like... Sometimes there are barriers to areas that you look like you should be able to cross into that you can't. These are things I would know because I was someone who played that game. And it's also very easy to get lost if you don't know exactly where the hell you're going. Because there really isn't a good navigational system in the game. So I would say for people to, I'm not even saying use Metacritic as the main source of your information, but if you're going to go there, then check the individual reviews of what people are saying about the game. And I'm talking about the users, not necessarily the critics, the paid critics. Talk about, go to the users if you're going to use Metacritic, because you can get a better feel for what people found that they liked in the game and determine if it's something you like. The bad thing is I was actually pulling for this game to do better. I was expecting for it to do pretty decently across the board, because it does have an interesting aesthetic. The problem is it looks like some of the mechanics just don't work so well for everybody, so it's one of those things. But if you're interested in Foamstars, I'd say go to multiple different people who have actually played it to get an idea of whether or not you would like it. Especially if you know someone has a similar set of interests to yourself, then you're more than likely to like something that they like. Not always, but it's a decent way to gauge things. So the sad thing is Foamstars was hyped up to be this great, fun, amazing experience, for it to basically launch and be mediocre and lukewarm for all intents and purposes. So, and that sucks, because there needs to be a competitor to Splatoon, like a game that can compete with Splatoon, because it'll help Nintendo improve themselves and get better at what they're doing, and it could be a way for people outside of the Nintendo ecosystem to experience something like Splatoon. Again, I would just like for something to be able to compete. Like, we don't have to have one game hold down the genre. And Splatoon kind of created its own genre. So we need somebody to come in and say, yo, I'm gonna be fighting you for that #1 spot. It just don't look like Foamstars is gonna be the game that's it, unless they drastically improve it with some updates and get rid of the high price tag for skins. But I'm gonna go ahead and call it quits on this. Thank you guys very much for listening in. Keep your eyes and ears up for more stuff from me, and until the next time, enjoy your games and peace out, everybody.